welcome everyone to this afternoon's meeting of the Northern Ireland Assembly Public Accounts Committee. And I would particularly like to extend a welcome to my colleague, Mr. William Ehrman, MLA, who has joined the committee today, replacing Mr. Harvey. Willie, you're very welcome, and look forward to working with you. So, members, in welcoming you to the committee, I have to remind you that mobile phones must be set to airplane mode or turned off. It's not sufficient to put mobiles on silent as they continue to interfere with the Assembly recording. The session has been recorded in video and audio and can be accessed via online streaming either the Assembly website or Democracy Live. Have we any apologies? No. Okay. Agenda item 2 then is the minutes of the 24th of June 2021 in your pack, pages 7 to 22. Are members content? Members content that I sign them as being accurate?
Great.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, declaration of interests. Members, at each meeting, members are required to register relevant financial or other interests in the members' register of interests. Does any member have any interest they wish to declare this afternoon? Nope. Okay. Agenda item 4 then is matters arising. Any matters arising from the minutes? I have none, so there are none. Agenda item 5, correspondence, pages 26 to 50 of your pack. Members are referred to correspondence dated the 24th of June, page 26 of the pack, from Mike Brennan, the Accounting Officer and Permanent Secretary, Department of the Economy, regarding ministerial direction query on £60 disruption payment to CAFRE students. Mr. Brennan states that in February 21 the Department approved the further education sector business case to provide a one-off £60 payment to eligible full-time, part-time students undertaking a study in an FE college. The payment was to address digital poverty of FE students undertaking study programme 2020-21 academic year and accessing online learning. It was not replicated for higher education students due to the broad package of support that was separately introduced for HE students. Are members content to note?
Content.
Sorry, Chair. Mr. Hilditch. Just a moment, Mr. Hilditch. Could I please ask members who are joining remotely to mute their devices? There's quite a lot of background interference. Thank you. Mr. Hilditch.
There was some members or some people excluded on that scheme, is that correct?
I can't recall, Chair, but I'll look into that.
Are you talking about the sports sustainability scheme or the?
Sorry, what was
Which scheme are you talking about? The
CAFRE grant of £60?
Yeah. Yeah, this was for CAFRE students.
Did everybody get?
Yeah, there was £60 came from digital poverty. Yeah.
Right. But I thought there was some issue there. Some received and some didn't. But if that's not the case, that's fine.
I think what he is saying here is there's a distinction between higher education and further education. He said,
yes,
it was the further education one. We're not covered because they had a different package of support. I think that's the argument.
Thanks for that clarification. Thank you.
Members are referred to an email dated the 24th of June 2021, page 27 of your pack, from Claire Saunders regarding the Sports Sustainability Fund. Ms Saunders is questioning the criteria of the fund, stating that her organisation, who were developing walking as a sport, wasn't recognised and didn't get funding. Are members content that we forward this to the Audit Office and that the Committee for Communities is also receives a copy, as it's a wider issue regarding the definition of sport, which goes beyond the recent remit of our inquiry, which has been agreed into Sport Sustainability Fund. Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay. I refer to your correspondence to correspondence dated the 25th of June, pages 28 to 31 of your pack, which we have copied into the Committee of Finance regarding a further update from Andy Monaghan, the DALO with the Department of Finance on publishing a list of ministerial directions. Are you content to note? Agreed. Excuse me. Members, I refer to correspondence dated the 25th of June, pages 32 to 47 of your pack, from the Clerk of the Committee for Finance regarding the committee stage of the Financial Reporting Bill. The bill aims to simplify financial reporting and better align budgets, estimates and resource accounts. It amends the Government Resources and Accounts Act Northern Ireland 2001. It provides for departmental estimates and accounts to include the spending of non-departmental public bodies, NDPBs and other central government bodies for which the Department has responsibility, therefore aligning the budgetary treatment of those bodies. Attached is the Department's correspondence, a table of all public bodies and the comments where appropriate on any actions or status regarding these bodies. The issue is not that all NDPBs are included in the bill. Are members content to note? Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. Should any member have any comments they want to make in writing, your response is required by 12 noon on the 3rd of September, addressing those clauses of the bill which you consider relevant to the requiring amendment. Okay? Members, I refer to correspondence dated the 25th of June 2021 at pages 48 to 50 of your pack from Professor Paul Bartholomew regarding the membership of the Ulster University Council. Has any member any comments they wish to make? There is one issue that's been drawn to my attention, and that is the fact that the interim head of the Northern Ireland Civil Service is a member of the council. And I suppose the question there is there a conflict of interest? Potentially. Mr. Donnelly, have you anything?
I think there is potentially. The chair of the council was in that role before being appointed as interim head of the service. I think you couldn't have, a full-time civil servant also sitting on an outside body. That would be a conflict of interest. What I don't know whether consideration was given to Jenny Piper standing down while from the university while in the head of civil service role, so I'm not sure if there's been any active consideration of that. But it's certainly something, there is a question there to ask, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are members content that we ask the question? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Members, we will remain in open session for our next agenda item, briefing from the Northern Ireland Audit Office on their second report, overview of the Northern Ireland executive response to COVID-19 pandemic. So agenda item 6 is the second report, overview of the Northern Ireland Executive's response to COVID-19 pandemic. Briefing from the Northern Ireland Audit Office, pages 52 to 94 of your pack, and we're joined and we'll have a presentation presented by Mr. Donnelly, the Controller and Auditor General, Mr. Thomas Wilkinson, who is also with us, and Kyle Bingham, who is joining us remotely. Gentlemen, you're all very welcome. And members, I refer to the papers in your pack regarding the second report and the papers, the NIAO's report, pages 52 to 94 of your pack, and the restricted paper, pages 3 to 4 of your pack. Mr. Donnelly, can you and your team please begin the brief to the committee on aspects of the report?
We decided when COVID emerged that we would do every 6 months or so an overview report, Chair, of just looking at all the different schemes, and there's a huge plethora of schemes across nearly all the departments, so it's just a macro overview of what is going on. As my director on this one is actually Patrick Barr, who can come in remotely and he can give you a more detailed assessment of the key issues.
Is he joining us this afternoon?
He is.
Right. Okay. You got it? Mr. Barr, can you hear us okay?
Yes, Chair, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Okay. You want him to come in now, Mr. Donnelly?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Barr, you're live.
No problem. Thank you, Chair. In terms of the report, as CNAG mentioned, the intention was to draw together all the schemes, not to go into the value for money of all the schemes in the context of this report, because we're looking at some of those separately, but really just to draw together all the expenditure that was going on in relation to COVID-19 and give a sense of the total cost to Northern Ireland. So that included all the local schemes that were launched by our Northern Ireland departments, but also then the cost, the Northern Ireland cost of any of the national schemes as well. So we did the first report, and that had an assessment of around about just over 2 billion. At the time, we couldn't get a regional cost for the furlough scheme. So in our most recent report that was published just in June, on the 8th of June, the total cost is 6.2 billion. That now includes around 1.5 billion for the furlough scheme. But the main element of that 6.2 billion is 3.9, so almost 4 billion from the Northern Ireland executive departments and the schemes that they've carried. There's some other elements that I laid out in the paper. For example, some of the smaller schemes, the self-employed schemes and universal credit that were funded centrally. So those were the main schemes. There's also one element, the bounce back loan schemes. The scheme, there was a significant amount of money given in loans to Northern Ireland businesses, but again, that scheme is managed centrally from Westminster. So the big increase from our first report to the second is it's gone from just over 2 billion up to the 6.2, but as I mentioned, that now includes the furlough scheme. We intend to do the report again towards the end of this year. Both reports to date have been estimates of costs, so we appreciate that costs for schemes haven't totally settled. So we asked departments to give an estimated total cost of the scheme at a point in time. But what we aim to do as we move through into the next and potentially a fourth report is to look then at the actual cost and really be able to focus on that and have departments explain that more fully. A couple of caveats with the report as laid out. This only looks at schemes over £1 million carried out by departments. So there are any schemes under a cost of £1 million. Some of the other things that they just did in response, moving staff around or getting some additional staff, aren't covered in this report. At the time, with all that was going on with departments, we didn't want to put too huge an information burden on them, so we asked them to focus on the large schemes. In terms of funding, the overall for the 3.9 billion, which is the local schemes, 3.3 billion of that came from Westminster, from UK government, and the rest was identified and recycled and so on within departmental budgets here in Northern Ireland. I've also laid out in the briefing paper the main departments, so health, finance and economy were the ones with the biggest spend. And also then, as you'll well know, because we've been notifying you of them, a significant number of ministerial directions. So of the 3.9 billion spent locally, approximately 1.3 billion of it was under direction by a Northern Ireland minister, so about a third of the spend. So not too much more to say in this report. It's an information-based report. It doesn't make value judgments. But in terms of wider COVID work, what we're also doing is we have been working on a report of the small business grant scheme, so the £10,000 scheme. We've completed most of our work on that, and that is now with the department for consideration. So we're working through that with the department. We're also looking at the PPE procurement in Northern Ireland and reviewing that. And then as part of a wider group, a Nations Response Working Group, we're in regular contact with National Audit Office, Audit Scotland and Audit Wales to look at COVID response and government response across all the jurisdictions to make sure that we're picking up and sharing issues and so on as we go. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say in the report, but I'm happy to take any questions from members.
Okay, any members have any questions? Content?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Barr. Okay, members, we will now go into closed session for our next agenda item, a briefing and preparation session for our inquiry into Sports Sustainability Fund. So can I please ask that the Catherine O'Hagan from the Audit Office and Rachel Curlett, Auditor, are brought into the meeting, please, at this stage.
Signed. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Senate Chamber Programme Sound. This is the Northern